All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA DFS video. Going to be breaking down the Sunday 6-game slate. Let's go ahead and get into it. So guys, for this video, I'm actually going to do a game-by-game breakdown just because we have a lot of interesting injury situations with some players being questionable that will end up impacting the slate that we have here. So let's go ahead and start off with this first game, which is obviously going to be Portland versus Atlanta. Now, for Portland, they are pretty much good to go, but the biggest piece of news is whether or not Denny Avdija is going to be active or not. With him being questionable, if he plays, he somewhat becomes in play, but that really impacts all the other Portland players that we can be on. If he ends up sitting, I'm going to like Donovan Clingang a little bit here, guys. Only 26 minutes in the last game, 4 fouls. That game was a blowout as well. This is a game against Atlanta that should be a close game, but we'll see with Atlanta. They're actually potentially banged up as well, so we'll have to see about that. If Avdija sits, then Drew Holiday's a little bit more in play, guys. Scoot Henderson, Kamara, they're all a little bit more in play. And then Vic Krejci is actually not a terrible punt value if you guys need to get down that low. Again, if Avdija is out, if Avdija is active, Avdija is a fine play for you guys there. Now, for Atlanta, guys, we are waiting on news as to whether or not Jalen Johnson's going to end up being active tonight or inactive. He's currently listed as questionable. Obviously, if he plays, he's going to be into appealing pay-up play, but that also changes who we can be on for the Atlanta Hawks. And then same thing here with Nah. If he ends up sitting, then that obviously changes a lot of what we can be on. So if they're both active, they're both fine plays. If they both sit, CJ McCollum is much more in play. Dyson Daniels becomes one of the better plays just in general on the slate. He's been going off recently with those players being banged up. And if Nah sits, I think he's even still in play. And then Jonathan Kuminga, I think he's going to still be in play regardless. He's been playing well thus far for the Atlanta Hawks for the most part, especially when he gets the minutes, and I assume he will get the minutes here again tonight, but especially so if Jalen Johnson ends up being inactive. So I like him as a play. And the nice thing about this game is that we should have that news, right? Well, we will have that news before lineup block. We don't have to wait for some of the other potential news items that we are waiting on. We go ahead and jump on into Detroit versus Orlando. Now, with this game, we're not really waiting on news here, so that's good. But the tough part about this game is trying to pay up for Cade Cunningham. I will say Cade Cunningham is going to look extremely appealing. He's one of the favorite pay-up plays, but we also have Luka and SGA. And then also if Jalen Johnson's active, that kind of clouds the pay-up plays that we could potentially be on. Like yesterday, it was basically you're paying up for Luka. Today, we at least have 4 viable options to pay up for on tonight's slate. And then from there, I don't hate the idea of getting to like Jalen Duren. You know, he's been someone that's been going off recently. I mean, if we could guarantee 40 plus DFS points, obviously we would like that. At the same time, Paolo Banchero, he's someone that you could potentially pay up for. I do think I would rather get to one of the other pay up plays or like go down to like Jalen Duren. He's kind of at a weird dead price tag, but he's popped off for 58, 62, and 50 DFS points. Obviously, if he gives you that today against Detroit, that's going to be huge. But for the most part, I'm not getting to too many pieces of this game. So now we go ahead and get into Philly versus Boston here, guys. So for Philly, they're going to be without Joel Embiid and Paul George. Now, this ends up being a 9-point spread and not the highest scoring game on the slate as well. So that's kind of the unfortunate side of that. We also have the potential to pay up for Tyrese Maxey if the game ends up staying close. So if it does, I don't mind Tyrese Maxey. Now, at the same time, he's been someone that has still at least been somewhat productive in blowouts, but those are blowouts that they're causing rather than the other team causing. So if the game stays close, he's a viable option. But at that point, if you're playing Maxey, you might as well also potentially get to like VJ Edgecombe and or Kelly Oubre. VJ Edgecombe has been someone that's been going off recently as well, especially in those wins for the Sixers. And he is someone per 36 with Paul George and Joel Embiid off the court you would expect to go off. And we also have Kelly Oubre, who's been pretty darn consistent as well. I prefer Edgecombe, although Oubre has strangely been a little bit more consistent. Both of them are viable options, but again, yeah, you're kind of pairing those two together, or one of those two together with Maxey if you're going to play them, betting on the game to stay close. With that being said, I still do not hate Adam Bona, guys, with Embiid being out and with Johnny Broom being out as well in a blowout where they're getting blown out, maybe gets a little bit more run. We could get 20, 25 out of him here as well. So still not a terrible value. I think he's still a viable option for Boston. I'm actually not going to get to much of them. I think they're all basically correctly priced. If you want to get to some pieces here, I don't know if I would, just because we have some later games that maybe will lead to some potential value. Now we go ahead and jump on into Dallas and to OKC. So Dallas, a lot of question marks here, guys. Marshall is currently listed as questionable. I'm kind of expecting him to sit. We have PJ Washington, who's listed as probable, so maybe not a terrible play for him. But this is a game where we are likely to see a blowout. And so I don't think we want to mess with really even like Brandon Williams or Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton on a points per minute basis has been pretty solid since joining the Mavericks, but I don't really want to mess with that much. You could try to get to some of these cheaper values that in a blowout do make sense to get some runs, like something like AJ Johnson. Maybe he gets some run in a blowout. If you want to toss in like 2% of him, 3% of him, that could potentially be a decent option. Even maybe like Ryan Nembhard starts to get more minutes here, who's likely to get some run here now. You just got to make sure he's active. It's kind of the weird part of the season there where someone can be active and then be good to go. Miles Kelly, someone that got a lot of running, was productive. So I don't know. I don't mind the idea of chasing one of those value guard plays in this game that is likely to be a blowout, but I also don't think we need to go crazy with anyone there from Dallas. And so we go ahead and take a peek at OKC, guys. Again, we do have SGA to potentially pay up for. I'm perfectly fine with that. Ended up getting 34 minutes in his last game there against Denver. Had a very good game himself. I honestly feel like it's throwing darts with the payups. I don't particularly like one over the other. They're all about the same to me. And so I'm probably just going to split my ownership pretty evenly among them as it currently sits. Maybe that changes a little bit. Now, I don't necessarily like any of the other plays that we can get to here for OKC, guys. They're getting a little bit healthier. AJ Mitchell style, Jalen Williams is style. Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein, you could mess with a little bit, but I don't need to get there. And then a blowout, with a potential for a blowout. I mean, maybe McCain's in play a little bit, but I don't want to mess with that. And so now we go ahead and get into a little bit more appealing games. We got the Pelicans versus the Clippers. Now, the Pelicans are also a team where we got to see kind of what happens with some of the injury situations. So Zion is currently listed as questionable, only played 11 minutes. I kind of expect him to sit, and so that's my expectation right now. Then we also need to get an update on Trey Murphy, who sat on the front end of a back-to-back yesterday. Maybe he's more likely to play. I don't know. We'll just have to see. And then same thing there with DeJounte Murray, who again sat out yesterday on the front end of the back-to-back. So is he going to be more likely to play today? We'll see. We just don't know. Now, either way, I do think Bey is going to still be in play, guys. He's been someone that's been going off recently, and I expect him to continue to go off. We're likely to get 40 DFS points out of him, assuming that Zion's at least out. Now, if Murray and or Murphy are also out, then he becomes even more appealing there, guys. And so he's someone I'm still going to be getting to on tonight's slate. And then from there, guys, some of the better values on the slate, and let's just go ahead and show you guys that real quick. So we just sorted in the NBA DFS lineup builder by values. We're going to see Fears and Murray are two of the better values that we are currently projecting for right now. Then from there, Drew Holiday, Donovan Clingan, Klay Thompson actually popping up in there, and then Bayes in there as well. So obviously the Pelicans are still going to be pretty appealing here today. Again, we just need to get that news. We are getting a decent amount of 5X options here as well as a whole. So just interesting to call out, but nothing too crazy in regards to the values that are popping up. That's why I haven't spent too much time on this page. Right now, it's a slate where I don't want to say it's straightforward, but we're not getting any clear-cut values. Unless Murray sits, then Fears is obviously going to be appealing. And even if Murray plays and Murphy sits, then Fears is still in play. Even with Zion out, Fears is still in play. So guys, Fears did go off in the last game, guys. 34 minutes, 43 DFS points, and this price didn't rise at all. It actually went down a little bit. So he's still going to be someone I think we can chase that production with. I am a little bit worried that he is coming in off of that very good game. Maybe that hurts him a little bit. And then we also have Bryce McGowens, who I still think is going to end up being a great value. Again, assuming that Zion sits and maybe one of the other players sits. But even still, he is someone that should be able to at least hit 5X. And so I really do like the idea of getting to him as well. From there, we could mess around with Herbert Jones a little bit. Herbert Jones coming in off of a pretty great game last game, and he's been very solid as well. I think this is a great chance to get 5, potentially 6X as well. I'm going to be loading up on the Pelicans once again tonight. If it doesn't work out tonight, kind of oh well. And then Makovich, I was worried about the minutes that he could potentially get. I thought it'd be closer to 25. Nope. Or sorry, 20. It was at 25. The reason why I was worried about that is because we have Yusuf Missy being back, DeAndre Jordan, and then Derek Queen. Like Queen actually ended up played well in the first half, got limited in the second half, which was interesting. Maybe one of these two bigs ends up sitting and then Makovic ends up being in play, but this ends up being a pretty decent value regardless. Assuming that he does get 20 plus minutes again, it's tough to avoid him. And so now you guys are maybe seeing the lineup path that we can get to be able to afford to pay up for 1 or 2 studs. I think that could be a viable option if we were going to be loading up on those Pelicans. We go ahead and jump on into the Clippers, and with the Clippers, guys, we are still waiting on news as to whether or not John Collins ends up being active. That does change somewhat. If John Collins is active, he's not a terrible punt play, shoulder short play at his price tag. That would also mean that Benedict Mathurin is not really appealing at all. Benedict Mathurin in the last game with Kawhi out had 6 turnovers. He was absolutely terrible in that game. I do think he's someone that probably gives us around 30 DFS points tonight. I just don't think that'll be enough. And then from there, I really am not going to be getting into many of these Clippers plays. And so we'll jump on into this last game, guys. We got the Kings versus the Lakers. And we do have Keegan Murray still out here for the Kings. And if we look at some of the minutes projections, Clifford's like the only one that's projected to get 30 plus minutes, or close to 30 minutes, I should say. So he's a fine play at his price tag. Has shown some ceiling here recently as well. I'm fine getting to him in some capacity, probably about 10% for me, maybe a little bit more. But not a play that we need to go crazy with. And then we also have Maxine Raynaud as well. Some of that could get to 30 plus minutes and could get to 30 DFS points. I just don't think we need to be going crazy with anyone here with the Kings. And unfortunately, some of the value plays that you could have been on have their prices have risen up. And so it is tough to really get to a lot of pieces here for the Kings. And then with the Lakers, it'll be interesting to see on the back end of back-to-back if anyone ends up being ruled out here for them. I think they're all kind of okay plays. Luka, LeBron, Reeves, all perfectly fine. This could end up being a blowout as well, like last night was, and so it could limit the upside for some of the plays. So with that, guys, let's go ahead and get into my first look build, and then we'll show you guys what the 9-to-5 lineup builder is telling us are the current top builds. So let's go ahead and find a guard to pay up for here just in general today. And again, I'm struggling to find one that I love to pay up for. I think they're all basically great options. And so with this, I guess I'll go with SGA against Dallas, although it is a game where it's likely to be a blowout. And so I don't love that, but we'll go with him. Then we have 10.9 left over. And then if Jaren Jackson Jr. is active, I'm perfectly fine with this lineup. I think this ends up being a pretty solid lineup overall. So we'll see if he ends up being active or not. If he is active, that does make me want to be on Jonathan Kuminga a little bit less. So let's go ahead and just change this slightly here. And I guess we'll get to Maxey instead. Then that allows us to pay for Cade Cunningham. And so also not a terrible build, but we could make some slight adjustments throughout the day. And maybe instead of playing Maxey, we get up to SGA somehow, where we're just going to save $100 somewhere here. That could be a viable option as well. And so let's go ahead and zoom out, guys. I already ran some lineups. And again, this will change throughout the day. It's not necessarily going to get to all the Pelican plays. Okay. That's something you would have to update, but it is getting to enough. I think 4, I wouldn't want to set a cap, but I think 4 would be almost too much. 5, probably too much. At the same time, that is where the value is today, even on a 6-game slate as it currently sits right now. So with this top lineup, we got Fears and Murray. We also do have Bay. So in this lineup, I would assume it's preparing for Avdia to be out because it's getting to Drew Holiday, Jeremy Grant, and Donovan Clingan. Now it's getting to Grimes, who I'm okay with Grimes. I don't think he's a play we need to go out of our way to target. I would rather try to get to Sadiq Bey, or sorry, not Herbert Jones instead. LeBron's fine as well. Again, back into back-to-back, do I necessarily love that? No, but I'm fine with that. So, decent top lineup that's currently being projected in there, guys. Now that's going to do it for this video, guys. Appreciate you being here. Make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Good luck with all of your lineups today. And as always, guys, let's keep cashing.